Everyone always said you were so mature for your age, so responsible, so easy to raise. What none of them noticed was that you never actually got a choice. Somewhere very early, you became the adult in a house that was supposed to already have one. You learned to read the mood in a room before you learned to ride a bike. You comforted the people who were supposed to be comforting you. And here's the part almost no one talks about. That job never officially ended. You still carry it into your friendships, your relationships, your work, every single day. There's a name for what happened to you, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. These are 7 signs you grew up too early, and the quiet way it's still shaping your life right now. Let's name it first, because naming it changes everything. Family therapists call it parentification, when a child gets handed a role far too big for them, the caretaker, the peacemaker, the responsible one, long before they were ever ready. The term was introduced back in the 1970s by a psychiatrist named Ivan Bozermeny-Nagy, and therapists usually describe it in 2 forms. There's instrumental parentification, where the child takes on the practical adult jobs, cooking, paying bills, raising younger siblings. And there's emotional parentification, the deeper one, where the child becomes the family's counselor, the shoulder, the one who quietly absorbs everyone else's feelings. It's that second kind that leaves the marks you can't see. And it isn't always dramatic. Often there's no villain at all. Sometimes it's a parent who was overwhelmed, grieving, sick, working 2 jobs, or just barely holding on themselves. But the child adapts the same way either way. They grow up fast on the outside, and they pay for it slowly on the inside. So here's how to tell if that child was you. The first sign is that you are only comfortable as the one who gives. You're the friend everyone calls in a crisis, the one who checks in, remembers the details, shows up with the right thing at the right time. But watch what happens when the roles reverse. Someone offers to help you move, to cover the bill, to just sit with you on a bad day, and something in you tenses up. You wave it off. You change the subject. You insist you're fine. You've got it. Don't worry about me. Being the giver feels safe and familiar. Being on the receiving end feels almost unbearable, like you're doing something wrong just by letting it happen. That's not humility. It's a role you were cast in before you could even talk, and no one ever showed you how to step out of it. The second sign is that rest makes you anxious. A free afternoon with nothing to do should feel like a gift. Instead, it feels like something is quietly wrong. You sit down, and within minutes, you're up again, wiping a counter that's already clean, answering a message that could have waited, hunting for a task to justify the stillness. You start scanning for what you forgot, what you should be doing, who might need you. Silence feels less like peace and more like a warning. And this makes complete sense for a child who learned that the moment you let your guard down was exactly when things fell apart. Your nervous system quietly tied safety to usefulness and rest to risk. So now, doing nothing doesn't feel restful at all. It feels like you're about to be caught doing something you're not allowed to do. The third sign is that you physically cannot ask for help, even when you're drowning. The words just won't come. Picture the last time someone asked how you were doing during a genuinely brutal week. You probably smiled and said, "Good, just busy." You'll carry the heavy box alone, stay up all night alone, quietly figure it out alone, rather than say 2 simple words out loud. I'm struggling. Somewhere back there, asking for help wasn't safe, or wasn't answered, or came with a price you didn't want to pay again. So your brain drew a hard conclusion. Needing people is risky. Being capable is survival. And you've been proving how capable you are ever since, to a whole crowd of people who never even asked you to. The fourth sign is that you manage everyone's emotions automatically. You walk into a room and instantly feel the temperature of it. Who's upset? Who's gone quiet? Who's one wrong comment away from snapping? And without ever deciding to, you go to work. You crack the joke that breaks the tension. You steer the conversation away from the danger zone. You become whatever version of yourself the room needs to stay calm. As a child, that radar kept you safe, because a parent's bad mood could set the tone for an entire evening, and catching it early gave you a head start. As an adult, though, it's quietly draining you, because you're still doing the emotional labor of an entire room, every room, while abandoning the one person nobody in there is looking after. You. The fifth sign is that you keep ending up with people who need saving. Look honestly at the pattern running through your relationships and friendships. So often, you're the strong one, the stable one, the one holding it all together. You find yourself drawn again and again to people who are a little broken, a little chaotic, a little in need of rescue. And you tell yourself, this time is different. But there's a reason the pattern repeats. Being needed is the one form of love you completely understand, because it's the only one you were ever trained to earn. Here's the painful part, and sit with it for a second. Being needed and being loved are not the same thing. Someone can need you desperately and still never truly see you. But if love first arrived in your life disguised as being useful, your heart learned to chase the disguise and to feel suspicious of the real thing when it finally shows up. Before we get to the last two signs, which are the hardest to admit, take a second and be honest with yourself. Out of everything so far, giving but never receiving, panicking when you rest, refusing to ask for help, managing every room, and attracting people to fix, how many of these are just describing your normal Tuesday? Drop the number in the comments. Not for me, for the person scrolling who thinks they're the only one who lives like this. Your honesty might be the thing that tells them they're not alone. And before we go on, one thing needs to be said plainly because it matters. This isn't just a comforting label from the internet. Researchers who study parentified children have found that growing up in this role is linked to higher rates of anxiety and depression later in life, not because there is anything wrong with you, but because of the quiet patterns it builds into the way you relate to everyone around you. So naming this isn't self-pity. And it isn't blaming your parents. It's the first honest step out of a role you never signed up for. Okay, the last two signs go deeper. The sixth sign is that when someone asks what you actually want, your mind goes completely blank. Think about how you answer the simplest questions. Where do you want to eat? I don't mind. Wherever you want. What do you want to do this weekend? Whatever works for you. You can describe what everyone else needs in perfect, effortless detail. Your partner, your friends, your family. You read them like open books. But turn that question around. Point it at yourself. Ask what you want, what you feel, what you need, and there's nothing but static. This isn't emptiness, and it definitely isn't you being easygoing. It's a survival adaptation. When you're a child whose whole job is to monitor everyone else, your own inner world becomes a luxury you simply can't afford to pay attention to. So you stopped checking in with it year after year until the signal went quiet. And now, as an adult, you're fluent in everyone's language, except your own. The seventh sign is the heaviest one of all. You feel guilty for having needs at all. When you do finally ask for something, anything, you wrap it in apologies. Sorry to bother you. I know you're busy. It's not a big deal. Forget it. You feel like a burden simply for taking up space, for being tired, for not being okay for once. Notice how easily you apologize for things that were never your fault. How quickly you shrink to make room for everyone else. Somewhere very deep down, you absorbed a quiet, brutal belief that your worth is something you have to keep earning by being useful, and that the moment you stop giving, you stop deserving to be here at all. That belief is a lie, but it's a lie that was installed in you so young, before you had any defense against it, that you mistook it for a simple fact about who you are. So here's what I need you to understand. If you recognized yourself in these, none of this was your fault. And none of it was your choice. You were a child who did something extraordinary. You looked at a situation that was too big for you, and instead of falling apart, you adapted. You became responsible, perceptive, capable, strong. Those things are real, and they are genuinely yours, but they were also a strategy, a brilliant, exhausting strategy for surviving a childhood where love felt like something you had to earn. And the deepest truth is this: you don't have to earn it anymore. You are allowed to be the one who is taken care of. You are allowed to rest without earning it first. You are allowed to have needs, to say them out loud, to take up space without apologizing for the room you occupy. The child in you learned that being useful was the price of belonging. The adult in you gets to learn something new, that the right people don't love you for what you carry. They love you even when you finally put it down. And you don't heal this by suddenly flipping into someone needy or helpless. That's not the goal. And honestly, your nervous system would never allow it anyway. You heal it in the smallest, almost invisible moments, with a practice simple enough to start today. Call it receiving one thing. The next time someone offers to help you and you feel that automatic, "No, I've got it," rising up in your throat, pause for 1 second and try letting them instead. Just once. Let someone carry the heavier bag. Let a friend actually show up for you on your worst day instead of only the other way around. Let someone take care of you for 5 deeply uncomfortable minutes. And it will feel wrong. It's supposed to feel wrong. That discomfort isn't a sign you're doing it incorrectly. It's the exact edge where the old survival pattern ends and something new begins. A kind of safety you never got to feel as a child, arriving quietly, decades late, but still arriving. You practice being cared for the same way you once practiced being strong. Receive one thing today. Then, when you're ready, another. One small, terrifying, ordinary moment at a time. If any of this felt less like a video and more like someone reading your private history out loud, tell me in the comments which sign hit the hardest. Say it in your own words. There is an entire room of people here who grew up exactly the way you did, and every honest comment makes that room feel a little less lonely for the next person who finds it. Because there's one more layer we didn't open today. And for people like us, it might be the most important one of all. Not how to spot the pattern, but how to let people close without feeling like you're losing control. How the strong one finally learns to be held. That's exactly where the next video goes. If today helped you name it, the next one is where we start to set it down. I'll see you there. You were never actually too mature for your age. You were a child doing a job that was never yours to carry. And it's not too late to hand it back, and to finally let yourself be young in the ways you never got to be.